And the glow from that fire can truly light the world.
The year was 1961. John F. Kennedy was our new president.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
He inherited the White House and a country that thought it was perched precariously on the edge of war. And while the public practiced duck and cover, the military was primed. Young soldiers and airmen ready to die for their country. Young patriots like Adam Maddox.
We knew we had a mission, and anytime I flew a 24-hour mission, when I left home knowing that I may not get back, each and every time.
Young Maddox was an Air Force pilot, and in 1961 he flew the B-52G, or Stratofortress. Those planes were synonymous with the Cold War, carrying 2 nuclear bombs each. They flew 24 hours a day, every day. And if war broke out, their orders were simple.
Each time I flew that 24-hour mission, those weapons, I knew that it was my responsibility if something happened to try to get that first weapon to that first assigned target.
According to Maddox, they were about 12 hours into one of their missions when things went terribly wrong. A fuel tank in the wing burst just after an in-flight refueling, draining all 15 tons it carried. Then, on emergency approach to Seymour Johnson, the wing broke off, apparently under stress from the weight imbalance. Maddox and 4 others parachuted to safety. 3 of the crew members died.
It sounded like a plane on the way, but then it sounded like there was something wrong with it, you know.
Thousands of feet below, Toby Grimes was getting ready for bed.
And so I looked out the window, and it was coming back this way. And you could see it on far, you know, just a big ball of fire coming through the air.
As if the B-52 crash that night wasn't scary enough, don't forget, we're talking the height of the Cold War here. There were 2 nuclear bombs on board that plane, bombs capable of disintegrating everything within 50 miles of here. So when the plane went down in this field, the bombs did too, tangled somewhere in the fiery wreckage that was scattered for almost a mile. By the time you got here that night, was there still fire, smoke?
Oh yeah, the plane was completely engulfed in fire. It burned up.
Sheriff James Sasser was just a young deputy back then, but in the dark of night, he knew to follow the glow of the flames to the scene. What he didn't know was that 2 deadly bombs awaited him. That he found out when he got there.
There was a great feeling of uneasiness among certainly civilian law enforcement who were on the scene, and apparently there was some concern with the Air Force personnel too.
The Air Force worked quickly to douse both the flames and the concern. And when morning broke, miraculously, somewhere among the wreckage captured here by a brave photographer, investigators said they had found both of the bombs. One of them in Farmer Buck Tyndall's field.
That bomb was laying down on the ground. And it was smoking when me and him went around there. But I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a piece of that plane. And come to find out it was the bomb.
When was that? How long after the plane had crashed?
I'd say about 15 minutes.
But as days turned into weeks, and as Air Force officials began to cart away the plane's pieces, there was a strange turn of events. Neighbors say uniformed men camped out in the field, using heavy equipment to dig a monster hole. Very few people knew why. One who did was young James Sasser.
With their metal detection, they could determine that it just kept sinking in the ground. You know, the weight of it and the size of it, it just kept moving.
What Deputy Sasser knew, the public began to guess. Could the Air Force have really lost a nuclear bomb? And thus, the search began.
See, we tried to find it. They dug down to try to get it. I think, if I recall, it dug down about 200 feet, and it was gone.
If anyone knows what was on board that plane, it was Adam Maddox, one of the pilots. Maddox parachuted to safety just before she broke apart, scattering her flaming metal parts, including the cargo, across farm fields and country roads.
We had a big weapon in the rear bum bay and one of the big ones in the front, the largest weapon we had at that time. They were hydrogen bombs. I won't tell you the megatons, but they were multi-megatons, I say that.
And according to Maddox, it was one of these bombs, an Mk-39 Mod 2, that apparently the Air Force was looking for. You see, back in 1961, what's now a tranquil, lush green farm field was a bit swampier. And when the multi-ton bomb landed, as legend has it, it sank. At least that's the story Wayne County Sheriff James Sasser remembers.
It just kept moving, and the deeper they dug, it seemed the deeper the bomb just kept moving down in the ground.
With rumors spreading, the Air Force stepped forward, issuing a statement that indeed part of a nuclear bomb was missing, buried presumably. They spent months and thousands of dollars looking for the missing piece of bomb. In fact, neighbors say the government dug a mammoth hole hundreds of feet deep and nearly as wide. Now, obviously, we couldn't do all that, but we decided to conduct a search of our own. So we borrowed a Geiger counter, one of those nifty devices made famous during the Cold War. Well, we didn't find anything either, but oddly enough, that doesn't seem to bother the neighbors.
This is your farm out here?
Yeah.
So you've farmed that land, you've planted out there all these years?
Oh, yeah.
Buck Tyndall has lived on Big Daddy's Road since the 1930s, just 200 yards from where people say the piece of the bomb is buried. But Mr. Tyndall's got other things on his mind, important things like leaky faucets and young puppies. He'll let the others worry about radiation or unlikely explosions.
Ever bother you to be out there working in that field?
Not a bit.
You don't worry about the bomb?
No, sir.
Mr. Tyndall's opinion is respected. After all, it's in his backyard that this device reportedly lies. But there are those who aren't so sure. Sheriff James Sasser has heard all the theories and all the fears.
We have some people in the county who are very seriously concerned about contamination, and I certainly share their concerns, but I don't really know a sure answer for that.
But the people of Faro, those who live near the field where the story of the missing bomb started, well, those people don't need an answer. Because for people like Buck Tyndall and Toby Grimes, the story was quite enough, thank you.
I guess this is about the craziest thing that's happened in your life.
Yeah, that's right.